This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, friends. In this Business Intelligence Master Program, this is our 9th session. In this session, we will see how to copy files from blob to blob based on the file names. Example, if you consider you have a lot of files in your input container in a blob storage. Now your goal is to move all these files from input container to the output container. Okay, so now in this input container we have a multiple files. Example, for easy understanding, I will give you some example. You have a files with country names: India underscore survey, India underscore election, election campaign, something like that. We have a multiple files with file name starting with India, and we have a multiple files name starting with US. We have a multiple files name starting with UK. Okay, now your goal is to move the India files to the India folder, separate folder, and the UK files you want to move it into the UK folder, and US files you want to move it into the USA folder. Okay, this is the requirement. In this requirement, what we need to do is we need to pick all the we need to select, we need to filter out the files which we have in the input container, and after we filter whatever records we have, those records like output records, we need to load it into the output container. That is nothing but a respective container. India files I will load it into a India container, and US files I will load it into a US container, something like that. Okay, that is one requirement we are going to do. Second requirement, you may see you have a lot of files. Okay, in that file, maybe log file you have, so you want to extract the log file. Only single file you want to extract. How you can extract that particular single file, we are going to see. Okay, these are the two things. Third one is, before you do all these things, we need to understand dynamic copy activity, because copy activity, whatever we have done yesterday, it's a hard-coded copy activity. We have not done anything dynamic. Let's say you are trying to copy data from 100 different containers to the 100 different containers. Let's imagine we have 100 input containers: input 1, input 2, input 3, input 4, up to input 100. Now your goal is to move all these input containers data into output containers. You have a respect to output containers as well: output 1, output 2, something, output 100. Now input 1 container files, I need to move it into the output 1 container. Input 2 files, I need to move it into the output 2 container. Now what happens is you have a lot of containers you need to move. Okay, from lot of containers you need to move the data. So let's say yesterday what we have done is we have hard coded these container names, right? Let's imagine in this case how many pipelines we need if we are going to do our task like this. I want to move the files from 100 input containers to the respective 100 output containers. As per yesterday logic, how many copy activities we need? Please tell me, friends. Anybody? How many copy activities we may need?
100.
Murli, how many?
As per yesterday logic, 100.
Your voice is not clear, Murli. Other people, please respond.
1.
1.
See, just think and tell me, friends. So I am talking about 100 different containers. I am not talking about a file. Please understand. I am talking about 100 containers. How you can do it in a one copy activity? Yeah, Murli, you are right. As per yesterday logic, we need 100 copy activities. Everybody.
No, it's pipeline. One pipeline with 100 copy activities, right?
See, that's what I asked. How many activities I'm going to use?
100, yeah.
Okay. So remember, we are going to use 100 activities. That is not at all good practice, because same things if you are using again and again and again, what happens is the mistakes will keep on increasing. Okay, that's why somehow you need to manage to pass these containers names dynamically. Okay, that is nothing but a dynamic copy activity, so that we are going to see today. Okay, fine. So what all content we are going to cover today? You see, we are going to see scenarios first thing, then we will see dynamic solution, how you can provide not only for your linked service or data sets, you can create a lot of dynamic solutions you can provide in the Azure Data Factory with respect to your pipeline, data sets, activities, and linked service. So we will see all those things. Then parameters. Okay, with the help of parameters, we are going to pass the dynamic values to the your data set or linked service or your pipeline. Next, data flow diagrams we are going to see. Then we will see estimations. Okay, prerequisites, required resources. Then we will demo is same, create storage account, upload file into storage account, create Azure storage, create Azure Data Factory to create linked service for blob storage using integration runtime, create multiple data sets, because we don't know how many data sets we are going to use today, because we are going to use multiple activities, not only one copy activity. So as per our discussion, right, we need to filter out. I need to filter out only India files and load it into a India container. So in that case, I need to filter out. For that, I'm going to use the extra activities such as filter activity and for each activity, all those things I will explain in detail. Next, create pipeline. So I'm going to create a pipeline. Then once you create a pipeline, you can debug or run the pipeline as we discussed. Then you can monitor the pipeline. Okay, these are the things we will learn. So with respect to scenario, first thing that we are going to do is we are going to see dynamic copy activity. It's nothing but a all container names we are going to pass dynamically. How you can pass these container names dynamically, we will see. Then you can see copy files based on a file names from input container to output container as CSV format. Doesn't matter what format you have in your input, so you just convert into a your output is CSV. That we will see. Okay, same lab we are going to do today as well. Okay, copy selected file based on file names from input container. As I said, so in second lab you are going to separate all file names starting with India, name India. All those files I will load it into a India container. Now in my third lab, I have a specific file. I want to pick only log file, something like that. Specific file I will load it into a my output container. Okay, how you can do that? Then we are going to see have a JSON and CSV file from your input container. You have a JSON and CSV, both combination of the files in your input container. I want to convert these two types of files into a CSV and load it into a output container. How you can implement here, we are going to see. One thing I would like to tell you, whatever implementation I am doing, you don't need to follow same approach. You will have a multiple solutions. I will try to cover as many solutions as I can, because same requirement I can show you with the different activities. You can achieve same thing with the different activities. Okay, that is up to you. Whatever you are comfortable, you can use those activities. Okay, but same labs I will take with other activities as well. Okay, fine. Okay, clear, right? Everybody's clear on these scenarios as we discussed. It is very important. So anybody is not clear on any task, please let me know. I will explain once again. Everybody is clear? Vinay, clear?
Yeah, Malaya, this is Rahul.
Not telling.
Yeah, while we are moving from input container to output container, can we add a file name with a timestamp?
Yes, you can do. Very good question. That we can do. We have a separate lab for that. Okay, if possible, I will show you today as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that is
Okay.
possible. You can do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Because to complete these labs, today's session is enough, I guess. But we have a separate lab I have planned for that as well. Okay, how to append the timestamp for your file names. Yes, that is possible. Okay. Any other question? Please. So that's what I said. I asked yesterday. Please ask the questions related to this, because we have a lot of things to cover, and we will. This time is not sufficient, and I will spend some 10 to 15 minutes end of our session every day. Okay. If you have any
because you are changing
question,
the format, right? So as changing a format itself, we can add timestamp as well, right? So I thought it is related to this.
yes, you can do that. Okay.
Malaya, in single file we have like country wise records. Can we split like country wise records to output folder?
No, records you cannot split. Records, if you want to split, you need to use a data flows.
Okay, fine.
Or you have to use a Spark code. Okay. Okay, fine. Let's see. Let's do now. So dynamic solution. So how it is dynamic solution? See, first, creating hard-coded data set pipelines is not a bad thing in itself. Why it is not a bad thing? He's saying, my point I am saying here is, if you're creating a hard-coded data sets and pipeline, it's not a good, it's not a bad thing. Why? The reason is, when you have only single container where you are going to copy data from input container to output container. For this, what is the use of making it a dynamic? We have one container where you need to move files from input container to output container. Then you no need to spend time to hard code, like you no need to spend time to create a dynamic data sets or dynamic pipeline. Okay, so that's why hard coding data sets and pipeline is not a bad thing. First, you need to understand that. Okay, next, it's only when you start creating many similar hard-coded resources that things get tedious and time consuming. What it means is, same kind of things as we discussed previously. I have 100 containers, 100 input containers. I need to move all these input containers data into the output containers, respect to output containers. Now, same kind of pipelines, 100 pipelines you are going to implement. So this is not a good practice. So it is very difficult for you to manage same code in 100, like similar code. You are just copying 100 times for copying data from a different input and output containers, right? So in this case, what you need to do is, instead of creating same code again and again, instead of repeating same code again and again, you just create a dynamic, use some dynamic nature, so that instead of creating 100 different same things, what you can do is, you can able to achieve same task with a single pipeline or single data set. How? Because instead of creating one pipeline for moving the data from one input containers to another output container, what we can do is create a one pipeline and pass these input and output containers dynamically. Okay, that's how we can able to create the dynamic solution. Okay, now that's what. So when you have a same code again and again 100 times, if you are maintaining, it will be tedious and time consuming. Unnecessarily you are spending a lot of time copy and change the container names in each pipeline. It will take more time for you. Okay, next, not to mention, the risk of manual error goes drastically up when you feel like creating the same resource over and over and over again. So same resource you are creating over and over and over again, what happens is, it will increase the risk and it will increase the mistakes. Okay, so we know all these things. Next, your solution should be dynamic enough that you save on a development and maintenance, but not so dynamic that it becomes difficult to understand. And this is one of the things that people will do. People who knows things, right, what they try to do is, they will try to do everything dynamic. So if you do everything dynamic also, there will be a problem. Because example, you are like, your copy activity name you are trying to do dynamic, and your data sets you are trying to create dynamic. If everything is dynamic, what happens is, one second. Okay, so if everything is dynamic, then what happens is, people will not able to understand what is the input, what is the output, what is coming, what is going. You will not be able to understand, because everything is going to create at the runtime. When you execute pipeline, everything will get created. Dynamic means everything you will be able to see when you execute. You will be able to see the things in a runtime when you are executing the pipeline. That's why if you do everything dynamic, you will not be able to understand the things. That's why whatever you can able to do dynamic, you have to do only those things dynamic to save the development and the maintenance time. Okay. Clear? Any doubts in this? If no questions, let me move on. Now you see parameters. With the help of parameters, we are going to create a dynamic nature. You see, you can use parameters to pass external values into pipeline, data sets, linked service, and data flows. So into all these like resources, you can able to pass the dynamic values with the help of parameters. Next, by parameterizing resources, you can reuse them with a different values each time. Reuse them with a different values each time, meaning first time you pass input and use the same parameter. Next time you pass input 1, you use the same parameter. Input 2, use the same parameter. So you can use the same parameter with a different values. It's nothing but you can reuse the same parameter with the different values. Next, for example, instead of hard coding the container name in each data set, if you remember yesterday we have hard coded the input container name. So what I'm saying is, instead of hard coding the container name in each data set, we can parameterize the container name value. Then we can pass the container name in as a parameter each time we use the data set. Whenever you use the data set, to this particular parameter, you can pass the container name dynamically. Okay, clear? Any questions, friends here? Okay, no question. Say I will show you. So how you will create a parameters for your data set? How you will create data set parameter? So if you understood this, at least you can able to understand next to 10 different pipelines which I'm going to implement, meaning next to 10 sessions you will comfortably able to understand everything. If you understand this, it is very important. That's why I spent some time to create all the screenshots. Okay, see here how you will create your like data set parameter is, you see, in a Cloud Pandit data factory, we have created yesterday this data set. In this data set, you see, you open this data set. When you open this data set, you will see a tab called parameter. You just click new to create a new one. Once you click new, you see I have created, click new. It will allow you to give the name for your parameter. I have given the name for my parameter is source container. I'm not sure whether it is visible for you or not. It's a source container. Okay, I created a parameter called source container. What is the type of value? It's a string type. Okay, open your data set, go to parameters, click new to create a parameter. This is the first step that you need to do. Okay, clear this one? Next, once you create parameter in this parameter tab, see, I'm moving from parameter to connections. In this connection tab, we will provide the container names, right? So I don't want to hard code the container name. I want to pass the container name dynamic. That's why you see here we have something called add dynamic content. We have something called add dynamic content. Click on add dynamic content, then you see what will happen. When you click on add dynamic content, it will show the parameter which you have created. It will show the parameter which you have created. Just click on that parameter. Just click on that parameter. It will give you the code. It will give you the dynamic code which is required to pass the container name. Okay, this particular name, once you just select it, see that will come and sit here, file path. Instead of hard coding the container name, now I got the parameter value here at the rate dataset dot source container. What is the source container? We create a source container as a parameter. That parameter I am using. It's nothing but a dataset parameter. That's why you created parameter from dataset. Okay, this is the parameter I have used, and this is my dynamic query. Okay, now this what I need to do is, now it is clear, right? You open dataset, in parameters we created a parameter called source container. That source container you are using here. How you are using at the rate dataset dot source container. But this is a parameter. But how you will pass the value to it? How you will pass the value to it? See now. You need to move from data set to the pipeline. In pipeline, you just select the activity, whatever activity you want to use. In this activity, let's say my source data set. Okay, to my source data set side, I have created the dynamic parameter. Now go to source tab in your copy activity. Here you need to select your source data set. This source data set has a dynamic parameter, that is what? Source container. Okay, to this source container you need to pass your container name. My container name I have hard coded here, so you no need to hard code here as well. You can like pass to here also dynamically with the help of pipeline parameter. So we have a separate session on parameter, but for today session, to understand today's session, whatever knowledge we need till that much I'm covering, but we have a separate session on the parameters that I will cover. Okay, clear friends how I have done? First I went to the data set, created the parameter, that is the step 1. Step 2 is same parameter I have used in the connections. In a connections we'll have a option where you will select container. In that place I have used that parameter. That is my second step. My third step is I just used this data set in my activity. When I have used this data set in my activity, in activity level it is asking this the parameter which required a value. Okay, that value I am passing here. Okay, this is how you need to create the you need to create the data set parameters and you need to use them in the activities. Okay, clear? Please confirm our chat window, please, everybody. Thank you, Devendra. Rest of the people, please respond. Okay, fine. So see here, Azure Blob Storage Container. We know all these things, all these slides yesterday we covered, right? So account you'll have a containers. In a container you will upload the files. Where these files uploaded, that metadata you will have here. Then CSV file, comma separated file, meaning each value will be separated with comma, but you no need to, it no need to be a comma. It can be a pipe or tab as well. See here, all my values separated with comma. Here all my values separated with pipe. And next, JSON file format also we have seen. JSON file format, it's nothing but a JavaScript object notation. Here you see all values will be there in a key value page. Okay, fine. Because all those things I covered in the previous session, that's why I'm going a little bit fast. Okay, now we'll see data flow diagram. So what I am going to implement, first time I will implement the dynamic copy activity. Then we need to implement the we need to implement a pipeline which will copy the files based on the file names. How we will do is, first I will use something called get metadata activity. Okay, to this get metadata activity, my input is create a data set to reference to input container. So this inside get metadata activity, I need to create a data set. What the data set is going to do is, the data set is going to point to your input container. What it is going to refer? It is going to refer your input container. So okay, get metadata activity is referring to your input container. Now what exactly you need? So get metadata activity, what it means, the name suggests it is going to bring the metadata about your data. Metadata is nothing but a data about data. We have some file. Okay, what is metadata about the particular file? What is the file size? What is the file name? What type of file it is? This is the metadata about particular file. So in the same way, by using this get metadata activity, you can get some kind of a metadata information. Okay, what kind of metadata information we need today? By using this, I will create a data set. Step 1. This data set will refer my input container. In input container, I will have a multiple files, India underscore some files and US underscore some files and UK underscore some files. Okay. Now all these files I want to pick. So for that, you need to say in get metadata activity, you need to use something called keys. That key will tell you what exact information you need from that particular container. So key is child items. Child item means I am providing input container. I am asking child items, meaning inside input container, whatever files we have, all those files is going to be your child items. All that file list it will give. So what is my output? My output is something like this. If you have files, cp course.csv, course.json, emp.json, cp survey.csv. So based on whatever content, whatever files we have in input container, all that file list will come. So this is the file list I have. In this file list, I want to like pick only the files which has a name starting with the CP, Cloud Pandit. Only those files I need to pick. So for that, what you need to do, you pass all these files, okay? You pass all these files to a next activity called filter activity. To this filter activity, you need to pass all these file names. How you will pass all those file names is something like this. See, at the rate activity of this get metadata activity dot output, this activity output dot child items, because all these are the child items you see here. You used a key called child item. So this activity output dot child items, this activity output child items, I want to pass it to the filter activity. So okay, so you are using filter activity and you are getting all these 4 files. Now you need to filter out. So I don't want all these things. You need to write some kind of a condition to filter out and get the whatever files you need in your output. So what I'm saying, my condition here is, if starts with item.name. Item.name means each file will be a one item. First you will pass first item and you will check cp course.csv file. The name is starting with cpc, starts with, my condition is start with. Item.name is nothing but first you will pass the first file name. Whether in first file name we have a starting letter is cp. Okay, if the starting word is cp, then this file is eligible. It will be returned to the output. Next, course.json. Course.json is starting with cp. No, that will not be in a output. emp.json, that is there in that is starting with cp. No, that will not be there in your output. cp survey.csv. So this cp is like, again, this particular file is starting with cp, so that is also will be in your output. You see, your output is only cp courses.csv, cp survey.csv. Okay, so these files I need to copy these files one by one. So for that, you need to use something called for each activity. You need to use something called for each activity. So for this for each activity, you need to pass these 2 items. How will you pass it? At the rate activity of filter activity dot output, this activity output dot values, these are the values. Okay, values means these 2 files will go here. This activity output dot value means these 2 files will come here. I will show you in detail when we implement the pipeline. Okay, now 2 items. So item count, how many items received by for each? 2 items. Clear, friends? Now what for each is going to do? Inside for each, I will use something called copy activity. Okay, to this copy activity, first I will pass first file, that is maybe cp courses.csv. This file I will copy from input to output content. Then for each will pass the second file. This file also I will copy from input container to the output container. Okay, so this is how I am going to implement the pipeline, which will copy the specific files from your input container to the output container. Is it clear to all of you? Anybody have any doubts here? Got some idea, friends, what we are going to do today? Manohar is clear. Rest of the people, please respond. Murli, are you clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Clear.
Clear, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chaitanya, Bharat, Sriram, Ratan. Thank you. Okay, fine. See, this is basically, this is the condition, friends. Condition is very important. I will discuss all the conditions which we have, okay, when we implement the pipeline. So this is the diagram which will tell you how you will copy a specific files. Okay, now you see, I will come back. See another diagram. So I have a get metadata activity, same thing. So create data set reference to input container. You just have to use a keys child items. It will give you all these 4. Now you see, first I will pass all these files to my filter activity at the rate activity of get metadata output dot child item. Child item means all these like all these files I'm passing to the filter activity. Yeah. So in this you see, In this particular thing, again, I have a same thing. So if the file name starting with CP, those files only I'm passing to the, see, I got the output, and those files only I'm passing to the for each activity. Okay, see, copy activity. So I received 2 items. These 2 items I need to pass to the copy activity one by one. See, first file I passed, and it copied to the target, that is output container. I will pass second file. That file also it will copy to the output container. Now you see another filter activity I will use here. This filter activity, what it is going to is ins with item dot name dot JSON. So here doesn't matter what type of file. If the file name is starting with the CP, okay, then you are moving data into the respective output. Now my condition is changed. Ends with. If the file name is ends with .json, meaning I am separating the .json files. I'm separating the .json files. So if the file name is ending with .json, all such type of files I need to filter. Okay, see how many files we have with JSON, cost.json and emp.json. These 2 files I will pass it to the for each activity. See, at the rate activity of filter dot output dot value, filter output. These 2 files you will pass it to the for each. For each receive 2 items now. So here I will use again copy activity. First I will pass first item. It will copy. Second, I will pass second item, that is nothing but emp.json. I will copy that file as well. Okay, not only file name starting with something, you can also say file name ending with something. Okay, you have a different things. Example, you want to put exact file name, that is also possible. At the rate equals, you can put something at the rate equals. This is the at the rate starts with means file name should starts with this one, file name should ends with this one. At the rate equals means file name should be exactly this one. It should be equal to whatever name you have specified. So you have a different options, different functions, string functions we have. All those things you can use. I will show you those things. Okay. So estimation, so how many linker service, as whatever you do, we are going to use a single linker service, like we are going to use a single storage. So per storage, one linker service. We know how many data sets. So data sets depends on the reference points. We need to create data sets. So I cannot say these many data sets. So how many references we are going to create, those many data sets. How many activities? If you are copying data from a blob to blob, you are going to use a one copy activity. But example, if you want filter, then filter activity. If you want to get all the child items inside a input container, or but inside particular folder you want to identify all the file names, then you need to use a get metadata activity. If you want to copy file one by one for each activity, so depends on your requirement, you need to use the number of activities. But whenever you are copying, you are going to use a single copy activity. Next, pipelines. So one pipeline, so that is depends. So if you want to create a multiple pipelines, that is also possible, you can create it. So what type of IR we need to use to copy data from block to block? Same Azure integration runtime. The reason is everything, whatever you do, okay, so whatever activities you use, but ultimately we are going to copy data between block to block. So for this, we need to use a Azure integration runtime. Okay, next prerequisites, we know we should know what is storage account, what is Azure data factory, what is integration runtime and types, what is linker service, what is data set, activity and pipeline. All these things we should know. Next, required resources for today also, we need only storage account and the data factory v2. These two I will create. Okay, that's all with respect to the slides. I will go and show you the demo things. Okay, let's come here. Let's open portal. Okay, first thing, as we discussed, I need 2 resources. I will open portal in 2 different tabs. Let's click on storage account to create the storage account. Click add to create the storage account. Okay, free trial. I will create a resource group here. Click create new. This is Cloud Pandit BA Master Program. Click OK. Come down. So storage account name you can say Cloud Pandit first account. You just put first account, no issue. I am creating in S2 standard means HDDs, premium means SSDs. We know about all these things. I'm going with the storage v2 and read access geo-redundant storage. We discussed about all these things. It's nothing but a replications, copies of the data. In case of if you lose any copy, you'll have other copies to serve your request. Okay. Remaining things you no need to worry. Just click review plus create, because yesterday, day before yesterday, we have seen all those options. In real time, as a developer, you are not going to create all these things. That is one more thing you need to remember. Okay, come to second tab. Let's create data factory. Click on data factories. Click add data factories. Free trial resource group is this one, and the region is east to west 2. Let it be. And my data factory name, I can say Cloud Pandit ADF of V2. So V2 Git configuration. We will configure Git later. Okay. Then networking, leave it blank, cast is default values. If you have any key value pairs, you can provide. Otherwise, click review plus create. It is going to validate all these details. Validation passed, creating. Okay, so you have a data factory here, you have a storage here. See, our storage is ready now. Just click on go to resource. Come down, click on containers. Let's create 2 containers. Okay, one is my input container, create it. Second one is my output container. Okay, create it. Okay, so I will go and upload my files in input container. Okay, let's click upload. Click here. I'm not sure where I kept all our files. CPJSON1, CPJSON2, let it be. Okay, upload these 2. These are the 2 JSON files I'm uploading. Let's upload 2 more CSV files. Okay. See, these are comma separated values. Okay, you can select comma separated values or whatever you want. Okay, let's say if you want to go with pipe separated values, you can go with pipe separated values. I also have tab separated files. Okay, so whatever you want, you can go, but let's go with comma separated values. Okay, let's say this one, I can say yes. Okay, let it be EMP only. Okay, these are the 2 files I have. Let's upload these 2. Click upload. See here, I have a cust.csv, emp.csv, cpjson2.json, cpjson1.json. Okay, these 4 files I want to move it into output container as it is, without converting any data, like without converting the file format. So if it is a CSV, I want to load it as a CSV. If it is a JSON, I want to load it as a JSON, but this time my copy activity is going to be a dynamic copy activity. Okay, so first we will see how to create dynamic copy activity. So that is our prerequisite, because without understanding that, if we implement our final pipelines, you will have a confusion. That's why let me implement the dynamic pipeline first. Dynamic copy activity. Click on go to resource. Click on author and monitor to open your data factory. Don't worry, first thing that you need to do is, okay, you just do whatever you do daily. Okay, we will go to manage tab and we will create linker service. We will have integration runtime, that is default integration runtime, and it's a Azure type integration runtime. We know the advantages of auto resolve integration runtime. Let's click on linker service. Click new to create a linker service. What type of linker service you are going to create? You need to connect to the blob storage. So select blob storage, select blob, click continue. The storage name I can say LS linker service for Azure blob storage ABS. So we know description. If you want, you can give something. And I'm connecting to this Azure blob storage by using auto resolve integration runtime. It's nothing but a Azure IR, we know. I am authenticating through account key, but we have other ways as well. Come down, and subscription is free trial. See, I'm identifying my storage from the Azure subscription. You can also enter your account name, account key, all these things manually. So instead of entering manually, I'm identifying storage with the help of subscription. Select your storage name, test connection. Connection is successful, you create it. Okay, fine. Second thing is come to author tab. We know we need to create 2 data sets. Let's create 2 data sets. Click new data set. This is my source data set. Blob storage. See, I just selected blob only here. Continue. So what type of file you have doesn't matter. Just select something randomly. Okay. Because we are going to copy entire data which we have in a container. But if you are trying to copy specific file, then you need to mention the file format. But if you are trying to move all the files recursively, this file format will not be a matter. So now here, you need to say DS. Okay. Data set for Azure Blob storage, and it's a source one. Okay, source data set. This data set is basically for basically to move a multi files. Okay, so this is my source data set. Let's use the existing linker service to identify the path. So now you can browse it, but what we are planning to do is our goal is to pass this container names dynamically. Okay, first time I will show you with hard coded values. Let me hard code this. See, I selected, I am hard coding the container name dynamically. We know we need to select first as header, otherwise it will ignore the headers. It will not read the header. Okay, click OK. It will import the it will import the schema data type of each column if you put that. So we created one data set. Let's create a new data set. This is same blob storage. Continue. CSV file. Continue. Now it's basically data set again. This is a data set for Azure Blob storage, and it's a sync. It's a sync one target, and this is also for multi files. This is multi files. Now use the existing linker service and select your output container. See, output container also I'm hard coding. Select your first as header, meaning when it is writing data into your output container, it will write with headers. Import schema. So if you want to import schema is nothing but if you have any data, it will identify the data type of each column. Okay. For now we don't have any data, so whether you are importing, if you are not importing, doesn't matter. Click OK. Now you have 2 data sets ready. Let's create a pipeline. PL. Basically, this is for data movement. Let's say data blob to blob. Let's put something like blob to blob here. That's all. Now your copy activity name, just to drag the copy data activity. This copy data activity, so change the copy activity. Okay. Copy data from a source. This should be a source. Source to source to a source to sync. Otherwise, yeah, this is okay. You can put this name, come to source set, select your source data set and select your sync data set. Now you need to observe one thing. So are you seeing anything here, some parameter which is requesting for value? No. Source set, come here and see here. Anywhere you are able to see any file like any parameter which is requesting for value? No, because we have not created a parameters inside this data set. Inside this data set, we have not created a parameter. Now let's debug it. What is the same data set? Multiple location is a folder, the wildcard. Yeah. So we know, right? Whenever you are like copying data, what you are doing here, you are trying to copy multiple files from a directory. Then you need to tell what type of files I need to pick from that particular input container. Do you want to pick all the files? Then start. If you want only JSON, star.json. If you want only CSV, star.csv. But this time I want to load all the files, I will use star. Click debug. Now it will work. Okay. It is running. Okay, it is succeeded. Let's go to our storage output container and refresh. You see all those files came here. Okay, now let's delete all these things. Okay. Come to your data factory. Now I want to create a dynamic data sets. How you can do that is, let's go same thing, whatever I have given in slide, same thing. First click on this particular data set. You see, when you click on data set,
Sir?
you see panel. Tell me, Murli.
Sorry for interrupting you. So, whatever the data sets we given naming convention, no, that is mandatory to enter in source and sync files.
Maybe no. Yeah, see here, this is source is nothing but you need to tell. See, it is mandatory because what is your source? Data set will refer a particular folder. So this particular source folder reference you need to give in your source data set site, because it will take the data from this particular reference point and it will load the data into this particular reference point. That's why these two are mandatory.
Okay, in general, what we can give any name in general option.
Yeah, this is copy activity name. This can be anything. This can be anything, but just to understand, I have used some names. Okay, naming convention. I am moving data from this data set to this data set. Just to tell that I have used this. Okay, fine.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Now we all are clear, right? So we have some 4 files in our input container and I don't have any data in output container. You see, I have some files in my input container, 4 files, but I don't have any data in my output container. Okay, I don't have any files in my output. Let's come to data factory. Now you see, same things that I have shown in slides, I will do. Just click on data set first. You see you are in a parameter. Click new to create a parameter. This one is what? Source, right? Source means I will give source container. You can give any name here. This can be any name. Okay, you no need to give exact name what I have given. It can be anything. Data type. What type of value you are going to assign to this parameter? String. It's a name, right? Name means string. Now, this particular parameter, where you are going to use, come to connections. See here, instead of outputting this value, click add dynamic content, come down, you see that particular parameter. Just select that parameter, you can see this value. Click finish. Till here, everybody's clear. Now, from this data set, I will go to pipeline. In this pipeline, go to activity. Inside activity, you will see source side. If you select this data set, then it will appear here. Suppose sync side, if you select this data set, then it will appear here, this parameter. Wherever you use this data set, this particular parameter will appear because this parameter is available in source data set. Now select this sync data set, that will go. Source side we are using this data set. So see here, this is the parameter. For this parameter, you need to pass the value. That parameter value I am passing as input for now. Okay, I am hard coding the value here. I'm not hard coding the value in a data set. I'm hard coding value in a activity level. Okay, later I will dynamic these values also. I will show you how you can dynamic these values. Okay. So now you have created a source data set as dynamic. Same thing I want to do my sync data set as dynamic. So click on sync data set. Okay, when you click on sync data set, you see you have a parameters. Just click on parameters. You see you don't have any parameter. Click on here. Here you can say sync container. I have used sync container. Now click on connections. Instead of hard coding this, add dynamic content. Come down and select sync container. Click finish. Okay, go to your, again from data set, go to your activity. Here you are using this data set at sync side. See, At sync side, this parameter came. Now you can hard code this value here. Okay, friends. Now let's try to debug. See, our source data set side I have passed input. My sync data set side I have passed output. Let's click debug. So successful. Let's go here and refresh this and see. See, 4 files came. It is working exactly same. Only the difference is now you can pass any values. Okay, but I will just delete all this content which we have here. Now I will show you how you can pass these parameters from pipeline. Okay, come here. Okay, see now I'm hard coding these values here. I don't want to hard code this output or input here. Okay, in that case, what you need to do, just click on this. Okay, open place. Click on open place. Now you see you are in a pipeline. Now just click on this. One second. Yeah, so you are in a pipeline now. Okay, select here. You will see parameters, variables, output. If you want to create a pipeline parameter, see you have a parameter here. Click new. I want to pass two values. My input value. I want to create my output value. These are two parameters. These are a pipeline parameters, input and output. These pipeline parameter values I need to use inside activity. Just click on this activity. So here instead of hard coding this, here I will pass my pipeline parameter value. Just click add dynamic content. Come down, you will see input value. This is my input container value. I will pass here. This is the dynamic query. Okay. Now come to sync. Instead of hard coding output value, add dynamic. Now come down, you see output value selected. Okay, now you see you have made the data set dynamic, and to this data set, whatever value you are passing, that also you are passing dynamically. But what is this input value and output value? When you will pass it, just click debug. Now you see what happens. It is requesting to provide the values. So I will pass here my input container is input, my output value is output. Now just click on OK. Now it is running. Click refresh. So it is successful. Now go to your output, refresh this. You will see all these things. All those files came. Now come here. So first thing that you need to do, come here. Here somewhere will be there parameter. Yeah, just click on this. See here your input value and output value parameters. Okay, clear? How many of you not clear from this? Because if you're not clear this, you will not be able to understand the pipeline which I'm implementing now. That is for sure. That's why please let me know. Whoever is not able to understand, I will explain once again. I cannot name the thing. I cannot call names. Please let me know.
Malaya, when you are creating some pipeline parameters, at the final you were about giving some input value and output value. So
Yes.
whether we are going to pass any any numeric values or
So you can pass anything. Just click on workspace, this open space canvas. Now you come here, see here you will have a types, int value, we have float, boolean, anything you can pass.
Okay. Yeah, whenever you're running the package, it was appearing right at the end.
Yes, yes. Now again, if you click debug,
Yeah.
it will ask you to provide the values.
Okay. So whatever we provide there, the type of the strings, we can pass those values.
Yes, yes.
But this is also going to be a normal hard-coded process, right?
No, where you hard coded. So these values you are going to pass when you run a pipeline. Okay, when you run a pipeline, maybe all the details you will put it in a some metadata table. from metadata you will pass one by one to pipeline parameter. Okay, this pipeline parameter will use in your activities wherever it required.
Okay.
One thing you need to understand pipe. So I will discuss parameters later, but to give you more clarity, I'm explaining you. Pipeline parameters will be available. Pipeline parameter value will be available for all the activities which you are using in a pipeline. Dataset parameter value will be available only to that particular dataset. Global parameters, we have something called that global parameter value will be available to all the pipelines. Okay, so don't worry, parameters I will come back, but at least you got whatever we discussed today. Everybody is clear till here? Okay, so I'm not getting any response. I hope everybody is clear. Let me create a pipeline which will copy data basically based on the file names, maybe based on file names which has if the file name is starting with CP, only those files I want to copy into my destination, something like that. How you can copy that particular pipeline I will implement. Now come here, let's delete all the things from my output container. See, from output container I'm deleting everything. I'm not modifying anything in my input. Come here, please be in mute. So this time I will not create linked surveys, then create data set, then create pipeline. It is difficult for you to understand why I am creating these many data sets. Okay, that's why we need to come from the pipeline level. Let's create a pipeline. Okay, this pipeline is also basically for PL. This PL is basically for what? What purpose? For filtering the files. PL data movement pipeline only. This is also data movement pipeline only, but blob to blob with filter. Okay, with filter. So I want to apply a filter. So based on the filtered output, those files only I want to load. Okay, with the filter. Now, first thing as we discussed, what activity we planned, we discussed already. Get metadata. So if you're not, if you don't know where this activity is available, come here and search for that particular activity. Get metadata. Drag get metadata. Okay. Now, in this get metadata, I have explained you. Okay, if you want more clarity, let me just explain you once again that particular diagram. Data flow diagram. Let me show you so that with explanation, if I can able to show you, maybe you can able to understand. See, first thing you need to understand, I'm using a get metadata. What we have planned, this get metadata, inside get metadata, I need to create a data set to reference to a input container. So I will go and reference to a input container. Okay, let's click on this. See, I will provide here, but here if you want to give the name for your activity, you can say this is basically get metadata child items. So I want to get a child item from this get metadata activity. I want to get a child item. Now on this activity, click on dataset. We know about all these things, right? Timeout means if this get metadata is taking more than 7 days to execute, you need to throw a like timeout error. If get metadata activity is failed, I want to try 2 times or 3 times with a interval of 30 seconds. With a interval of 30 seconds. So minimum interval you need to use 30 seconds. Okay, if it is failed again, you need to wait at least 30 seconds to run next time. Okay, so secure output input, basically it will not save your input and output into your logs. Logs will save in a backend. Those logs, it will not, in those logs it will not show all your input and output. Okay, in your error logs or whatever. Okay, so we will discuss about that. Click on data sets. So we need to create a data set which will reference data to your input container. Click on input. So blob storage, I have my data in blob storage. Click on delimited text. This is basically, I will say ds Okay, Azure Blob Storage, data set for Azure Blob Storage, and I am using it in a get child items to get child items. Okay, this is my activity, get child items, and use the linked service which you have, and you can hard code the path. If you want to pass this particular path dynamically, that is also possible, you know. Okay, first row as header, I'm saying first row as header. Click OK. You know about all these things. Now see in this diagram, if you see, you once you create a data set, you need to open a key, and that key you need to tell child items. How you will open key is, you see field list. That field list is nothing but a key. Just click new. Here you will see multiple options. We have, you want child items, or you want to check whether particular table existed or not, or particular table is available or not in that folder, or you want to know what is the what is the name of your container which you are referring. Okay, that is input container that you will get if you select this. Item type means it's a folder, you will get folder. Item type, if you select, it will give you folder. Okay, if you want, let me show you one by one, even if it takes more time, that is okay for us. Okay, let's go one by one. Item name, and I will execute it. How will execute? Just click debug to see the output. See in output, you can see what it has given. Input item name is nothing but input it has given. Now I will change my field name. My field name I will change to item type. Item type is nothing but, container is nothing but what? Folder. Now you see it will give the item type is folder. Succeeded, click on output. See, item type is folder. Now let's click on field list again. I want to show you whether particular file is existed or not. If you want to check, you can check. Last modified. When you have modified your input container, that particular date, if you want to get, you can get it. See, when you have modified, see 2:13:35. You come here, click on input and see 7:43:35. This is in another time zone. This is in another time zone. Which one? Here. Both are in a different time zones. That's why you can see this is in different time zone. That is in different time zone. Let's see what is our time. Our time is 8:09. So this is in IST. Okay. This is in UTC. This is in UTC. Now you see the UTC time. It will be something. See 2:40. So 2:40 means exactly we uploaded maybe 1 hour back, something like, not 1 hour also. 2:50 means 2:30. Exactly we uploaded some 37 minutes back. So now if our time, current time and this one, if you compare, exactly 37 minutes. So okay, 10 and this is some 27, not 17. 17 plus 10, 27. Here also time difference is some 27. 50 means 27 minutes only. Okay, this is in UTC. Here you can see in IST. If you compare, both will give correct time. Okay, when you have modified that particular thing. Now I will go and select child items. Let's click debug. Okay, let's check what all it has given. See, child items are cpjson1.json, cpjson2.json, cust.csv, emp.csv. All the files which we have, it has given. It's clear? Clear or not? It's clear, right? So this is your child item. This is, if you want in this child item, if you want name, we have to use, if you want any file name, you have to use a key called name. Don't forget, these two are very important. With respect to get metadata, two things you need to remember. Child items means it will give you all the files which you have and the type, because in a container you can have a subfolders. That's why it is also giving you whether the type is folder or file. This is a file. This is a file. Okay. This is a file. This is a file. Okay. Okay, friends. So two things you remember: child items means you'll get everything. Name means you'll get only file name. Okay. Now this particular output, I need to pass it to the next activity called what? Filter activity to filter my data. See now, we got the till here, right? So we got this output. Now I will pass these things to the filter activity. Okay, now here filter activity, I need to drag your filter activity. So just this input, get metadata activity input, you need to pass it to the filter activity. Next, you remember this connection will tell you a success connection. Right click on this, it will tell you if get metadata activity successfully executed, then you want to execute filter activity, green mark line. Okay. If get metadata activity fail, then you want to run a filter activity, failure. Okay. If it is completion means that may not be successful. It may not be successful means you will not, it is still in a process, but your actual task is completed, then immediately it will start the filter. Skipped means this particular execution is skipped. It is not executed due to maybe before activities condition. Due to that, this particular activity execution is skipped. In that case, if you want to execute filter activity, then you can select skip. Okay. So other things, delete this particular relation. If you want to delete, zoom in, zoom out, just for expanding this particular zoom in, zoom out if you want to do. Okay. Now come to filter. We know to this filter activity, I need to pass all my get metadata activity output. Okay, how you can do is, let's say here, first you need to say filter file name. So we are going to filter the file name. Now come to settings. Here you need to pass all your file names. How you will pass your file name? Come down, you will see get metadata activity. Click on this, it will tell you get metadata activity dot output dot. You need to say I want all child items. Click finish. Is it a child items or item? You can check that also. Here you can see child items. So that's why exact name you need to paste it here, output dot child items. Now what it will give you is, it will have all 4 files. These 4 files I need to check out of these 4 files, which file is starting name with CP. I will check is, here you need to write a condition, add dynamic condition. Here I will check the condition is here. You go to functions, string functions. In the string functions, ends with if you want to use, or you want to use starts with. If you want starts with, just click starts with. Here, so you have received 4 items. One by one item, if you want to pass in these child items, if you want to get one item, this is the code. In these items, we have a name and a type. You remember, we have name and a type. It has given name is file, a name is cpjson1.json, type is file. If it is a folder, it will give type is folder, but we have all the file names. So I need to take directly item dot name. Okay, one by one file name I need to take, and in that file names, name is starting with CP or not. I need to check. CP is the name. I need to check whether file name is starting with CP. How it will check starting with CP or not? Because here the function is saying starts with. It will check in all the file names whether file names are starting with CP or not. Only those files it will filter and it will give you in the output. Okay. See item.name. Now you may have confusion. Don't worry. Here you have 4 files. You passed all 4 files from get metadata to filter activity. This filter activity will pass one by one file to this condition. One by one file it will pass it to this condition. This condition will check whether this file name is starting with CP. Wherever you see file name starting with CP, all those files you will get it into your output. Okay, let's click debug till here. What is your output? I want to see. Debug means you are executing these 2 activities now. Okay, let's click on this filter output and see what all things you got in your output. You see, so item count is 4 you have given, but in your filter items count is 2 because only 2 you got. cpjson1.json, cpjson2.json. These 2 files only starting with cpjson2.json. Let's say I want to go with ends with. The condition is Let's say I want to go with ends with I will say ends with here ends with dot csv. I will say I want to filter the files which are ends with dot csv. Let's click debug now and see what it is going to give you. It is successful. Now you see in your output side, here you see custard.csv, emp.csv. Okay, custard.csv and emp.csv. Clear, friends? .csv files here you can see. Total files is 4, but in output you got only 2. So likewise you can put some conditions. Now we'll see the functionality of debug. Let's say, see in this activity we have this debug. You can create a breakpoint. Click on this and click debug. Now you see this activity will not execute. Only till here it will execute. See, only get metadata executed. See, your filter is not executed, filter activity. But when you run it, when you trigger it, it will execute. Even though you have breakpoint will not consider when you run the pipeline. When you debug, then only this breakpoint will consider. Okay, clear? Now I will remove this breakpoint. The filter activity. This filter activity, see now, this filter activity, you have used the get metadata output dot child items. Condition starts with or ends with whatever you want, you can put here. Okay, then filter activity will give you the file names based on whatever condition you have given. Then these files I need to pass it to the for each activity. So for each activity I will pass just for each. Okay, for each. Now click on settings. So here, so how many items for each will receive? We know it will receive 2 items. Do you want to execute these 2 things parallelly at a time? You want to copy 2 files, then batch count. You have to tell how many copy activities you want to execute. It's nothing but how many iterations should happen at a time. Batch count up to 50 you can run at a time. Okay, but item count is only 2 we have. These 2 if you want to run at a time you can use 2. But if you want to run one by one, then you have to click sequential. Sequential means one by one order. Okay, batch count means parallel. Now items, what items you need to pass here? So click on filter. No, sorry, click on this. Okay, do one thing. Up to here, up to filter. Let's debug once again. I will tell you the reason, because I need to show you what you need to pass to the for each. Let's click on this filter. You see this value is nothing but these things you need to pass it to the for each. This is the value, key is value here, you need to remember. Okay, now remove this, click on this, now click on this, click add dynamic content, come down and select your filter output. Okay, select filter. So filter dot output dot what is that value? Remember, this is not a case sensitive. You can use value or you can use a capital VALU. Okay, anything is you can use. It's not a case sensitive. Okay, clear? Till here is clear. So now, how many activities copy activity will receive? Let's click debug. Okay, I think debug will not work because for each should have at least 1 activity. Okay, so go inside for each. Okay, so that's what you can see here. I have used copy activity. I passed these 2. Now item count is 2 will get for each. Inside for each we need to use the copy activity. So to this copy activity I am going to pass one by one dynamically. Okay, now you see. Come here. Okay, see, you will be somewhere here. Okay, for each. Now just click on this. You will go inside for each. See, you are inside for each. You can go to inside for each 2 ways. Okay, by clicking on this or double click on this. Okay, you will go inside for each. Inside for each, what we want to use copy activity, bring the copy activity. So this copy activity data sets are whatever data sets we have created, those data sets I will use. My source data set is this, my sync data set is this. Okay, Okay, my source data set side, I need to pass a value. How will pass value is, you remember here I'm talking about this one, right? So I'm talking about you have two items. One item I will pass first, I will copy it, then I will pass second item. So I will pass this item is one by one item you need to pass. This is the item @item dot. In these items we have a file name and a file type. So if you want file name, if you want the name of the file, okay, because one second, what we are trying to do here, okay, these two data sets will not work actually. I selected wrongly because our goal is not for source containers. Okay, so source containers is input only. Let's output this. Source container is input. You don't confuse here. See, your source container is input only, right? Okay, source container is input only. Your sync container is input only. Input only. Okay. Now you need to understand. Go to source. We need to create a one more parameter. One more parameter we need to create inside this data set. The reason is we need to pass the file names one by one, because inside input container we have a different files, but we are going to select only particular files, and those files we are trying to load it into output. That's why container is clear. We need to pick the files from input container and load it into the output. This should be output. I think nobody is observing. This should be your output. Okay, now come to source side. In this input container, we have a multiple files. I don't want to copy all those files. I need to specify my file names. Where is your file names? File names will be provided by for each. For each will tell you first a copy activity. Please copy this particular file first time. A copy activity. Please copy this file second time. So like that, there are two file names with for each. For each will pass one by one file name to copy activity. For that, your source data set should be ready to receive this particular source file name. Okay, for that click on open data set. I'm opening. Again, create one more parameter here. This parameter is basically source file name. Okay, source file name. Here, this particular parameter where you will go to connections. Here we need to select the file name. File name I'm going to pass dynamically. Come down, you will see source file name. Select this. Click finish. This parameter I created. Now go back to your pipeline. Okay, in this pipeline, you see source file name is ready to receive. Okay, how I will pass this source file name, I will tell you. Come to sync. Sync side also I want to pass my file name dynamically. For that, open sync data set as well. Then create a parameter. Is a sync file name. Now come to connection. Click on file. Let's select here sync file name. Okay, I selected the file. Now go back to your pipeline. Here you see you have a previously outputted input and output container names. Okay, that is okay. You can output it. But file names I don't want output, because file names is going to change every time. How you will pass the file names is for each is going to give you. You remember here you see for each is going to give you first file name. Once you copy it, then it will give you second file name. You have to copy. For that, come back. How you will pass here is @item dot. In this item, we have two options. One is name. Second one is, okay, do one thing. If you will confuse, just click add dynamic content. It will be easy for you to understand. Come down. You will see who is going to pass the items for each. So click on for each. So for each is giving this. In this item, you have two values, name and type. What you want? You want name of the file or you want type of the file? I want name of the file. Click name. Okay, same name I need to use in my sync side also. Come to sync file name, add dynamic content, come down, click on for each current item dot name, same file name I will pass. Okay, So that's all with respect to your pipeline. Let's debug it now. Before you debug, let's verify you have any content in your output container or not. You don't have any data. Now go back to your filter and check what is the output you are expecting. In your filter, you can see filter condition, it says filter condition says ends with .csv, meaning all .csv files we should be able to move it into a different container. Let's click debug now to see whether it is going to run or not. See, first get metadata activity is running. So once it has given all the file list, then filter will filter out the file names. See, get metadata activity is given the files and filter activity filter the items. For each is copying the first file. Okay, just click on this. It is still in progress. So you can ask for each how many items you received. See, for each is saying, hey, I received 2 items. You ask for each. See, for each is saying item count is 2. Okay. Now in each copy activity, how many files you copied? You just click on this glass. You see, files read is 1, files written is 1. One file is copied in this copy activity. In this copy activity also, one file will copy. Okay. Let's go to output container and verify whether only only CSV files came to your output. Let's delete this. Come back. Here in this filter, I will change the condition. Condition is now starts with here we will use CP and click finish and click debug now. So this time what is expected? Only the file names which is starting with CP. Those are the expected output. You see, copy activity is executing. Refresh this first time. See, one file came. If second copy activity is successful, then second file also will come. See, second file also came. Now you go to data factory. See, all like your pipeline is successful. Come here and you can refresh this. You see here. Clear? Any doubt, friends here?
Sir, get metadata small confusion.
Get metadata, you have small confusion. What confusion you have? Please tell me. See, you are in get metadata. Our data set is pointing to input container, and I have opened a field list is child items. So if you have any confusion, let's like create a breakpoint and click debug. Okay, you will see the what is the input and what is the output you are receiving here. So you'll come to know it is easy to learn, right? So you can create a breakpoint and you can execute that particular activity, and you see here only file names and type of the file you are getting here. Clear, Vinod?
Okay.
So
Okay, sir.
why we go only for child items?
Because what we need only children items, that is nothing but whatever files we have inside folder, we need those things. Our goal is to filter out the file names which we have in a one folder. So for that we need to read all the files from the particular folder. That's why we need to go to the child items. But if you select other items, what happens, what results it will give you, I have shown you. Item name means it will give you input container, and what is the type of that input container, it will give you, it's a folder. Last modified date it has given when you have modified input container, that particular container last time. So if you click exist, whether it is existed or not, it will tell you true or false, it will give. So something like that, I have shown you all those things. Child item is, that is our requirement, we need to select that. Any other questions?
Can you explain once for each activity once more, please?
Sure. So just for each activity, just remove this breakpoint. See, from filter activity. Okay, so let's say click till filter activity, you debug first. You try to understand here in get metadata activity, output is children items. These all data I need to pass it to the filter activity. So that's why you see here get metadata activity dot output dot child items. Okay, fine. Now you check the filter activity output. In this filter activity output, I am saying items count, filtered item count. You have a values. In these values, you are seeing your output files, your filtered files, your output files. You are able to see in this value. So now, when you go to for each, I am passing all my filter output to the for each. How I am passing filter activity output dot value. As I said, value, this is not a case sensitive, it's a case insensitive. You can use capital or small, but value should be that word, it should be a value, because inside this value only you will have actual data. What data you have here? You see here we have a two types of data, file name and the file type. Name is nothing but it will give you file name. If you ask the type, it will give you file type. Okay, so go inside this activity. I am using copy activity to this copy activity. So item dot name. So in a first item, I am passing the name. Name is nothing but what your first item name means. So I will tell you once again. Come to filter activity again. Click on filter activity output. Item is nothing but a first item, this one. Second item, this one. So in this item, first item, what you want? Item dot name. Name means you are getting cpjson1.json. If you say item dot type, it will give you, it's a file. Okay, first time it will pass this item. In this item, I'm saying item dot name. It will pass this particular file name. Next, once that is processed, that is copied. That's what I have shown you, right? Here, once it has given, you will copy it. Then you will get the second item. Second item is nothing but what? This one. You will get a second item. When you get this second item, you pick only file name item dot name, and this name you need to copy into your destination again, something like this. Okay, clear?
Sir,
Yeah, clear.